Better World Blueprint. Good humans doing good things.
Watching the news, you'd think kindness is in short supply. But beyond the noise, there are people leading with generosity. They're rolling up their sleeves and changing lives. This podcast is where you'll hear their stories. I'm Siobhan Hunt. Welcome to A Better World Blueprint. When was the last time you went to a music festival, dancing in an open field with plenty of tents full of alcohol and merch to buy? But what if those tents were full of care providers instead? Imagine a festival designed with a dual purpose. Like any other music festival, it's there to entertain. But unlike anything you've ever seen before, it's also built to provide connections between the homeless and the services they need. This is the brainchild of CEO and co-founder of Our True, Jessie McLachlan. Having developed this festival mostly in the USA, Jessie is now back in her home country of Australia, and she's got big plans. I hope you enjoy this conversation with social entrepreneur Jessie McLachlan. Hello, Jessie, and welcome to A Better World Blueprint.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. I'm wondering what led you to co-found this organisation and whether or not you had a moment where you just thought, do you know what's going to work? A festival. At what point did this strike you as a good idea?
Look, it was a happy accident. My background is music first. I'm definitely first and foremost a creative. And then I went into medicine and healthcare. But I think there's three pieces to my puzzle. I think I've always been someone who thought, why not? Like, I'm not a why do this? It's why not do this? Like, why not leave the world a little better than we found it, or at least try? And I've been like that since I was a kid and always looked at life from a bird's eye view. So not just seeing its pieces, but the sum of all the parts. But I think that was instilled in me, like that perspective since I was young. My grandfather used to pick me up from primary school. And when I was 6, he would never ask me how my day was at school. He would instead ask, who did you help today? He said maybe it was lending a pencil, a colouring in pencil to someone, or sitting with a kid who was alone at lunch. And so I think that simple question has always wired me early to see connection and kindness as the real makers of like a day well spent, or really probably like the core driver of all good things. And All True specifically was an accident. It was not in the plan. But it was inspired because I had just moved from New York to Los Angeles, and I was tutoring 3 little sisters living in a shelter for DV survivors. And I was tutoring them 3 times a week after school. And my birthday was coming up, and I had said to one of the little girls, I was like, what's your favorite birthday party you've ever had? You know, and at this time I'm 19. I wasn't thinking of what I was really asking these kids. And they responded, we've never had a birthday party. Then I thought, what? And they'd never had their face painted. They'd never seen live music. They'd never even tried a donut. And I thought, what's the one day where your world really stops and the people that care about you say, like, I am so happy you exist in my world, and like I see you and you have value here, is truly your birthday. It doesn't matter what age the birthday is. It is a human reminder that you matter. And that's kind of what inspired on my birthday. I wanted to celebrate in a different way. So we decided we'd host a public pop-up birthday party and invite all the at-risk kids. We invited 100 and 1,000 showed up, and then that kind of catapulted a very different way that I've spent my birthday for the last 12 plus years. And so we weren't initially a charity. It was just as time went on, we became more intentional. Within 5 years, then we thought we'd invite other nonprofits and doctors and other services that people needed and requested. So 6 months before every outreach, I go around and volunteer with other nonprofits and ask potential guests, like, if it was your birthday, what would you like to receive as a gift? And if there's something you need access to, what is it right now? And so then we tailor make the outreach festivals around what people's immediate needs are so that we can provide immediate access. So you can see a doctor on the day, like Colgate has a dental truck that comes, like you can see and be provided with immediate on-site access at all of our outreaches. So you have your life services, you can see a legal team, you can sign up for tutoring for free for the whole school year. But then realizing that a lot of these people have never received a brand new pair of shoes, have never had a haircut, or rarely get access to one. So then I wanted to provide the festival fun. So it's a reimagined music festival blended with a Life Careers Expo.
Wow, that is massive, Jessie.
Yeah, and it's a lot. But if you see it, it makes sense of why.
Oh, no, it completely makes sense. I'm saying it's a lot for you to organise. So can you tell me, you were just mentioning there it's kind of evolved over the years and obviously there's great demand for it. You do it both in the US and in Australia. I imagine that both countries have a problem with homelessness, but it has always felt larger in the US. Would that be fair to say?
Not necessarily. So right. Australia has so per capita, no.
Really?
No, we are very close. Let me just take that back briefly with what has happened in America recently with the inaccessibility now to Medicaid and Medicare. I think we'll see a rise in these numbers. So there will be a huge disparity between America and Australia, yes. But generally speaking, Australia's poverty line is very high per capita for a wealthy and well-resourced country. We have what I call functional invisibility. This is the term I've deemed it. And it is the 1 in 3 full-time workers who can't make ends meet. So the difference between Australia and America, I would say, is the fact that you can become medically bankrupt and that can leave you homeless. So that almost happened to me. When I was living in New York, I caught an infection, ended up in hospital. I was there with a music label and I had medical insurance and I had secondary insurance, all the right things. But I still left hospital with a $586,000 medical bill.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then it was like 3 years of fighting it, but I still had to pay like well over $100,000. So like a lot of people we've actually met at the outreach festivals generally are requiring very basic medical assistance. However, so we hosted a trial run in Brisbane when we were looking at expanding to Australia, and we had like 36 doctors volunteering at the Brisbane Outreach Festival a few years ago, and like they served over 247 patients that are just on wait lists. So like in theory, is it great that we have social systems? Sure. Are they effective?
No. Yeah.
Perhaps not as effective as they could be. And it's not as much of a safety net as people perhaps think it is, especially housing. You know, in some states it's 4+ years. So we have these incredible Australians and individuals that are contributing to society and contributing to the economy where they're hard workers, but if they ended up being sick for 2 weeks or God forbid something happened, like they will slip through the cracks quite quickly and there really isn't accessibility to services available for them. So we at All True, we try to prevent those things from happening. So we're in the not necessarily unhoused, we're in the prevention of poverty living that is existing to ensure those people still have societal structures that can support them so they continue to contribute. Like it's generally these children that never have had a birthday party or they only have ever had hand-me-down shoes or those kinds of things. So we're just trying to provide them the same level of care that you'd want to continue providing for your own family. Because I think it's important to note that not only is generational wealth in existence, but generational poverty is now inherited and at a rapid rate that we've never seen before.
There's a lot in that answer, but I just want to go back to the inception of Outtrue and how you've managed to provide this incredible service. You mentioned that it kind of has evolved and grown over time. How have you personally managed that? Because you mentioned you had a background in music and then you moved into healthcare. Of course, it depends what you've done in music and healthcare in terms of what skills they gave you. But did any of that equip you to co-found and grow Outtrue?
I think my work ethic is all I could possibly put it down to. Like, I am insane. I've always been like this. Like, now that you've asked that question, I'm like reflecting and I'm like, no, I've always been this nuts. Like, I've always had 3 jobs, like forever. And I'm someone that, like, you'll never be confused what I stand for. I don't speak often, but my actions will definitely show you. But my work ethic is, I will never be the smartest, the most talented, but my work ethic is unparalleled. Like, if I have to, when I was hanging on by dear life, trying to survive in med school, like my neurology unit in particular, this is like, gives me PTSD because I've never worked so hard to not achieve reflective results. And I was like truly dangling on the edge of, I'm not even sure what, hanging on for dear life. I couldn't spell or pronounce half the words. I was like, why didn't I learn Latin? That would have really helped this subject. But like, I would wake up at 3 a.m. just for an extra hour. I will say All True in America has been a lot more smoother sailing in the sense of, I think culturally with brands and nonprofits, they are very ingrained to social corporate responsibility. They will align themselves with 10 plus charities. Obviously there are bigger budgets, but they are very active in that space. Like, if you go to Thanksgiving, no one talks about anything else but who did they give to? Did anyone volunteer that week? Like, it is very culturally ingrained. And not to say it doesn't exist in Australia. I think, we think it does. It just might not be as strong as we'd hope it to be. Like, in the top 20 wealthiest countries, Australia sits very low on the GDP in philanthropic giving. And I think that would probably surprise a lot of people. But to answer your question, I think I'm an insane person that just has the work ethic to, I will underpromise and overdeliver. I will never promise something I can't do. I think all of my work, whether it's been songwriting, medicine, or volunteering, and I've been volunteering since I was in high school. The high school I went to in Brisbane, its motto was virtute non verbis, which means actions, not words. And I think just all of that symbiotically together at its core is shared humanity. It's like the everything is like humans matter, whether it's writing a song where someone can relate to it or like feels it because it's the intangible feeling that it gives them, or the sanctity of life. And advocating in medicine is very similar to advocating in the preventions I want to instill in the charity work. So I think just human connection, again, it's the one thing that we're hardwired for. It's just we're not, at the moment, we're trying to figure out how to attain it and sustain it in this new modern world that's ever changing.
Have you had any hurdles or challenges or stumbles whilst building Outtrue?
Of course, I am a professional stumbler. Like, I fumble more. Like, I think, I am a human being human. Failure and stumbling are in the fine print of every contract of success. So I think the key for me has always been I choose to fail forward, to find the lesson and keep moving forward always, because every misstep is kind of just data for the next better step. I do think, I was quite surprised at how straightforward building All True was in America, given that I was foreign. But again, like the action of showing up is very culturally, it's the thing they do there. I mean, the amount of volunteers we have, and, if someone offers something, but they'll always follow through. Australia's landscape has definitely been more challenging. I think perhaps the fact we do have social services kind of leads people to believe there's this safety net, or that people don't really need as much access. But if anything I know to be true, especially in medicine, is there is so much unsaid. There are so many people struggling, and we're living in a country where she'll be right just won't cut it anymore, because there are so many silent suffering that is really happening. And families sending their kids to school with like holes in their shoes, or things that they couldn't afford, or they don't get lunch, or the parents skipping meals. Like, they're all the things that we've heard about from people like sending me emails or sending it to our website. And I think I wouldn't even call it failings. I think we're the new kid on the block for an Australian standard, even though we've been around for so long in America, that one of the challenges has been, one of our major sponsors in the US, the Australian version didn't come on board, and they're a conglomerate. And I don't see it as a failing, but the one thing I do find challenging to reconcile is the fact that the cost for us is human. Like, we're a all volunteer-led charity. I've been a volunteer CEO for 12 years. I have never been paid. Like, we are zero admin. And we've been able to sustain that because of the generosity of these incredible corporates, brands, private wealth from families or individuals, or even the gift of your time from volunteers, that we just haven't, I guess, unlocked that yet. But where there's a challenge, I see an opportunity. So I'm going to be delusionally optimistic, and I am relentless. So I will send you 10 follow-up emails, and you'll have to say yes to me just to get rid of me, because the people matter. And I think at the end of everything, that is the true motivation, is this is a problem that can be solved. And it's not as complicated as people think, especially in Australia with the numbers, like our population number. Like, it is achievable. Like, let's dream to be Scandinavian, where that looks like a really nice place to live. Just from a societal, being nice to your neighbors, I don't know. I've always dreamed that All True won't exist in 10 years because we've done the work.
Has doing this work over the last decade, do you think it's changed you?
I mean, I am forever evolving and changing as a human. I hope I'm not the same person I was last year. But I grew up around volunteering and community service. But I think this kind of work has deepened everything I thought I knew. I think it's the generosity that humbles me most, and not necessarily the generosity of me and the team. I think more when I tutor at-risk kids who literally have nothing and probably may or may not get a full dinner that night, they'll offer to share their tiny snacks with me. Or I think I met a man, Mike, over 8 years ago. He attended the festival and I was his volunteer tour guide, walking him through the entire event. And he was unhoused from medical bankruptcy also. But side note, I have a number of medical challenges, one of them being an autoimmune disease that for a period of time I was undergoing bi-weekly infusion therapy and would undergo treatment for several hours once a week. And this homeless man would send me text messages on treatment days to check in with me. And I think, if anything, it's those are the moments that have fully cracked me wide open, the human experience. I think the work has given me a greater understanding of Like it's resilience, it's kindness. And that's redefined gratitude for me. Like gratitude isn't just like a practice. It's really a lens I see through now.
What impact have you seen from your work?
Yes, but I find this really challenging because like we've had huge numbers and, you know, how many lives have been impacted, and then they obviously have a domino effect. And even from a volunteer standpoint, you think you're coming to an outreach festival to be of service, but you take away so much more than you came with. You know, I kind of spiral after every festival where people think like, you should be so happy. But in my head, it then becomes this realization of why is there so many people to serve? Like, why did we have to do this? And then I go, I'm like, because success it's a strange, like the word success it's double-ended there. You know, success means I'm serving people in need, and we're a developed nation. Like then I go into this other existential crisis within myself. But, you know, there are big numbers we can point to of like meals served, people housed, and partnerships formed. But I think what stays with me the most, at our Brisbane festival, we had a little girl who received her first ever pair of shoes. So Converse donated thousands of brand new pairs of shoes. So every guest got a brand new pair and their first ever shoes. And this little girl was dancing for hours on the dance floor. And she came up to me and she said, "I've got my happy feet on." And I was like, "Oh my God." And she's like, "These are my first ever pair of shoes." And they were epic. Like the whole things were sequined. I was like this, and she was 5, and it just the joy, like to me, it's like I don't have to think twice about buying a pair of shoes. And then you're seeing what you might on your everyday life think is like some trivial gift, but like she will never forget that moment. And I think then it's like she's a better human. Even the people, she's more connected to community. She's really going to care about showing up for community. Like it has these intrinsic domino effects, which medically are actually called social genomics. There's a whole medical cascade that happens, but that happens for both the volunteer and the guest. The other one is Mike, who I first met unhoused, and he now has a home that he helps other transitioning homeless people off the streets. It's nominal rent, and he's helped 96 people transition off the street. Like, I think it's those moments that remind me that impact isn't just about like scale. It's the ripple effect of one life touched, and then they domino that forward. I think one of the greatest currencies there is the effect you have on people. And sometimes you'll never know the seed that's been planted. But something that is actually really interesting is for our large donors, we require them to supply 20 staff. Of those 20, 5 have to be leaders within their organization. And we had like the president of HBO walking around washing feet and like being a volunteer tour guide one year. And I remember for months and months after, we were receiving so many staff emails saying the camaraderie in the office has changed. Like the person that works next to me is so much more compassionate. We feel more connected. And it's just a nicer place to work because you've unlocked the tool of empathy.
It sounds incredible, and your work is really, really impressive, Jessie. Thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Co-founder and CEO of Outru, Jessie McLachlan. To find out more about Outru, check out the links in the episode notes. I'm Siobhan Hunt. See you next time on A Better World Blueprint.